what essentially happened is immediately in aftermath of the tweet by Daryl Morey, there was a huge backlash and pushback.
Wait, what? From China? Really?
Games were threatened to be canceled. And we talking about games featuring like LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Kyrie Irving.
Wow.
He wasn't playing for the Knicks, though.
Wow. Okay, so here's a running joke, right? The running joke is that the Knicks suck and they don't want to get better. And they ain't trying to get better.
Jonathan, you didn't say you were a Knicks fan.
I am a Knicks fan, and it pains me to be a Knicks fan. But continue talking. We'll talk about that in a second.
Well, essentially what occurred was there was this huge backlash between the NBA and China.
And hold on one second. Do we have our guest on? Hello, do we have our guest on yet? Conrad, Tillard, and Tamika Mallory? I'm hearing something. Okay. So so what you were saying? You were saying, Chris Randall?
Well, no, essentially that's what occurred. And so basically there was lots of pressure for the athletes to answer questions that they didn't really weren't all the way comfortable with. And then Donald Trump came back and essentially made a bunch of public statements about Steve Kerr and Greg Popovich.
Like what? What could Trump ever say about them?
Well, basically he said he called them scared little boys. He said that they didn't want to comment and they were scared and shaking in their boots. Of course, he didn't say anything like unifying or protective of certain American citizens, anything like that. So
of course not. Essentially, he wants to get reelected.
Right. So that's kind of where we are.
Okay, but I still don't understand. Why is it a controversy?
Well,
so what? China doesn't, want to see NBA players. Well, like NBA is American, so I don't understand.
Yeah, but they're playing games in China.
Okay, so what?
Listen, I'm with you, but the Chinese government was not happy.
So the Chinese government was like, NBA, you are criticizing us. You need to shut the hell up. You need to sit down shut up and shut up. Shut up and dribble?
Basically.
Wow. So is the NBA going to shut up and dribble?
Well,
are they going to give up that good money?
Well, basically, they've been having lots of conversations around it. James Harden made a statement. LeBron James and certain others have not made a statement as of yet.
Wait, what did Harden say?
I like freedom.
Oh!
So, I'm good with whatever.
So, in other words, black man was just like, all right, y'all about the money, but freedom is more important.
Essentially, right.
Now, what is the position of Trump? Because, it changes every time. Like, I know he wants him to research Joe Biden. Is he making a deal? Like, what's going on with that?
Here's the thing. Essentially, Donald Trump used this as a way to get back at certain people who have been critical of him, namely Steve Kerr, Greg Popovich, and LeBron James.
Okay, so I know LeBron James famously called Trump the bum. He said he's a bum, and I agree with that.
I would never sit across from him, but I would sit across from Barack though.
Right. So he basically said, "I'd never have a dinner with the president. I never have dinner with the president." Right. That was like an Ice Cube song, right? Ice Cube reference. So basically, what did he say? What did Trump say?
Well, I mean, literally, he's just.
Well, not that I care, because LeBron is right. He's a bum. Well,
here's the problem. A lot of these athletes are not going to make a statement because they're not Muhammad Ali.
They want to. Now, question: Are we on the air with Conrad Tillard? All right. So you say what, Mr. Randall?
Look, Muhammad Ali is famous to the iconic reality of social.
The Viet Cong didn't lynch me.
Didn't call me right. Ain't no
the Vietnam didn't call me.
The N-word, right. I think there's a fundamental reality where everybody knows that the nature of protest makes you more iconic than whatever exploits you have on the field.
Okay, so that when you are Colin Kaepernick, all of a sudden, because he wasn't really, at that point, he wasn't like a great quarterback, right?
First of all,
but he's going to be known throughout history now.
Well, here's the thing.
Because of what he did.
He made a Super Bowl appearance.
Right, which many quarterbacks do not do.
Right.
Did he win?
No, he lost to the Baltimore Ravens.
Okay.
I have no comment on that.
Because you're a Baltimore fan.
I'm from Baltimore.
You are from Baltimore, and you are a Baltimore fan. I understand.
Well, actually, at the time,
you cape for Baltimore.
I do.
Put on your Superman cape for Baltimore.
I do.
You rooted for Baltimore above the iconic black man.
And anytime, if the people of New York are still mad, we are still down to make that trade for Raz Baraka. Y'all can have our mayor anytime you're ready.
Oh, okay. Your mayor just didn't show up for work like for the last few Like
months?
Months? It's been months now?
On the run, yeah.
All right, so what's her name again? Your mayor? I forgot. She's been gone so long.
Her name is Carmen Sandiego.
Wow, where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Your mayor is Kathleen?
Sure.
Kathleen Pugh?
Sure.
Okay, so Kathleen Pugh is the mayor of Baltimore.
Yeah, she was.
Catherine Pugh.
She was, and then there was.
She was the mayor of Baltimore. She technically is still the mayor of Baltimore. She wasn't unelected, which may tell you a lot about Baltimore, right? They had an impeachment process, but because now you have an acting mayor, right? Acting mayor, quotation. No one can see the quotation. Well, I guess they can't see the quotation marks on, YouTube and Twitter. But like you have an acting mayor that just disappeared.
And so here's the other thing that's been interesting.
And they're talking about the NBA or talking about something else?
Here's the other thing that's been interesting this week.
All right, so we moved away from the NBA. The NBA looks bad because what's my man who said he valued freedom? What's the black man's name?
James Harden.
James Harden. James crossover Harden.
And he was supporting. He was also standing in solidarity with his general manager, who initially made the statement about China.
Okay, so in other words, his general manager made a statement about China.
Standing in solidarity with the protesters. Yes.
And all of a sudden, he gets all this flack, probably from the NBA. People are trying to fire him. Right?
Well, it wasn't even that. It was the Chinese government started putting pressure.
Okay, so
they started snatching down billboards, canceling games.
So is the NBA just like saying, you got money, but, I got two letters for you, F and U, and we'll go to the United Arab Emirates to play. Well, they got money.
Well, basically, a lot of the games have went on. The problem is fans showed up with masks on or whatever, like they didn't really want that smoke with the government. Because now if you're going to the NBA,
the government will smoke you.
Right. If you're going to the NBA game now, you are like affiliated with that.
You're like going to the NBA game is like protesting Hong Kong.
Right.
Damn.
It's like taking a knee. Anyway.
Yo, man, the Chinese is real light skinned. They're real light skinned.
Yeah. So the other thing that happened this week that I've been really excited about is there've been a lot of great hip hop albums that have come out in the last couple of weeks.
Okay, so one thing. Do any compare to Rhapsody?
No.
Because Rhapsody is, I think, the best album in the last 2-3 years. But I think you have Jay-Z's 444, right? And like Rhapsody's album.
Now Wale's argument. Wow, that's crazy. His album, Wow, That's Crazy, is pretty interesting.
Wow. Okay. Wale.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So tell me what's come out.
Shout out
what's
to DC. I can say that.
Shout out to DC. Wale's from DC.
He is.
All right. Nice. So what's the hip hop that's coming out of there?
Well, there's that. He put out an album that essentially blends all kinds of music.
So it blends all kind of music. So Wale's new album is just like fire.
Right. There's political commentary. There's commentary about mental health. There's commentary about lots of things.
Okay.
And there's gospel music.
So he's like Chance the Rapper on there?
No.
I love Chance, man. What? Man, what?
I know you like the girl, man, with Coloring Book. I understand.
Coloring Book was nice, man. No, don't sleep on Coloring Book. He blended gospel, like, you don't want no problems with me. I love that. That was my theme song.
That wasn't on the Coloring Book album. It's okay.
Oh, but it was on the next one? Oops, I've been listening to them all.
Come on, Uncle John. Anyway, all right. So the other cool thing that I've been sort of thinking about in the last several weeks is looking at our political landscape as it relates.
Well, before, what are the other albums? Wale? What else?
Kevin Gates, I'm Him.
What's good about that?
Man, the level of simile, metaphor, wordplay, the introspection of it all is great.
Like hip hop.
Yeah, man.
So you're like, it's like real hip hop.
Yeah.
All right. So what else? So Wale.
Yeah.
And
Kevin Gates, I'm Him.
All right, Kevin Gates. I'm writing this down because I'm just like, got to get my hip hop on. Kevin Gates.
Yeah.
What else came? All this came out this week, and you say there's some good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Who else?
Common.
Oh, I got Commons.
Let Love.
Commons is nice. It's just Commons album is like therapy. It's like real therapy. It's like, I just need to, I need to grow up and get married and like do some like real healing. I need to just, I need to go to therapy. I need to get my life. I need to get my life and have a life and create a life, right? Commons album makes you want to have kids. It just makes you want to like, hey, man.
You made me just not want to play it no more.
I need to get married. I need to have kids. I need to be a good man. That's what Common's album is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's like get therapy, get right with yourself, get right with God, get right with your woman, and create this good black family.
Yeah, man.
That's what Common's album's all about.
I think that puts.
You scared? Because you like the album, and I'm just saying.
My palm just got. And every time you say these kinds of things, my palms get sweaty, my back starts to hurt.
Okay, because it's like, hey, man, grow up, be a man, because both of us are single.
I wasn't going to say it. I wasn't going to say it.
We're listening to Common, and this Common album is like, well, Chance the Rapper's new album is like that too. It's like The Day, which is like a celebration of his marriage day, right? And so all these rappers are like, yo, man, black family, good. I think that's a positive step in the hip hop community, and we've come a long way. Like people talk about this generation, they just suck, or the new hip hop just sucks. No,
yeah, but
they're probably a lot more responsible than the stuff we listen to.
Yeah, but the person you're talking about is 50 years old.
Is it what?
The person you're talking about is 50 years old.
That is true.
Let's just be clear. Like
that's true, but it's
such a convenient message as 50.
It's just recently released.
Like I love Jay-Z because it was such a convenient message of 50.
What? Are you saying that his get married, don't cheat on your wife, be responsible?
Right, you're 10 minutes from high blood pressure medication.
Wow!
You need somebody to help you with the pills.
Wow! So you say the only time brothers actually get serious is when they get older and start thinking about their mortality.
No, well, 50 Cent was always talking about his mortality because he almost met it once or twice.
Okay. Or 3 times.
Or 3 times.
Right. How many times did he get shot that one time? Like, damn.
A bunch. It hurt.
Like, wow. And you live?
Anyway.
Like, you just got to talk lots of trash after that.
That's why your album can be called something like Get Rich or Die Trying.
Right, because he was trying.
The other thing that's cool, Pusha T has a song with Lauryn Hill called Coming Home.
Wait, are you saying that Lauryn Hill has a new song out?
Yes, with Pusha T, and it's awesome.
Lauryn Hill has a new song out?
Yes. There's 2 different versions of it. One is an extended 6-minute version.
Oh my God, Lauryn Hill has a new song out?
And Pusha T is crazy.
Oh, Lauryn Hill's a new song out?
Listen.
I'm just saying, Lauryn Hill, man. She's like that artist that releases one song every 25 years. And it's 4 minutes and 22 seconds. But it's still classic. It's still great. Mm-hmm. That's I'm like, wow. Right? Like, yeah, man, I love Lauryn Hill. Everybody loves Lauryn Hill. Lauryn Hill.
Except Robert Glasper.
Oh, Robert Glasper really just lit into Lauryn Hill like a mug. Like I was like, dang. Oh, yeah. He released this article saying she stole everything. She didn't write one original lyric. Everybody, and on top of that, on top of all the lyrics she stole, she ain't paying nobody. That's what Robert Glasper said. Yeah. She's like, I'm a real musician, and she knows how to take musicians' music.
What you got to say about that, DJ Rhino?
Well, I'm not going to add on that, but I was going to say, in speaking of classic artists like Lauryn Hill,
baby.
I want to say number 1, happy birthday to MC Lyte.
Oh, MC Lyte, happy birthday!
Lyte is a rock.
Yes,
right, I love MC Lyte.
Also, happy 20th anniversary to Mos Def's Black on Both Sides.
Umi says.
That's right. 20 years ago, that phenomenal album dropped. And
Yassine Bey.
It had me locked.
I know, it was a great album. It was one of the best albums I ever heard, and then he became an actor. Mm-hmm. Did he still rap?
He still raps.
I'm just saying, he made that one album.
He's on tour. He's doing shows with Tillard right
now. Okay.
They're trying to bring back the Black Star end.
Fair enough, because the only time I love Black on Both Sides, man. But the only other time that I ever dug Mos Def was when he was with Tillard. When he was without Tillard, he was lonely. He released an album after that, and I'm like, is this listenable?
Well, after what? After
Black on Both Sides. Yeah.
He has a few. He has New Danger, True Magic.
Okay, I thought New Danger was trash.
True Magic, Ecstatic.
Are any of them listenable? Good.
Listen.
Ecstatic was pretty good.
Listen, America. What? The greatest hip hop rap group is the Clips.
Is what?
In this conversation, we should end this conversation now.
He said the Clips.
Well, are you looking at DJ Rhino? I trust your judgment on this. Do you think that he's crazy?
Yeah.
Do you think he's high right now?
Hey, but then
and not on some good healthy stuff.
But see, this is where the whole ageism comes in because he's younger.
Oh, he want to play because you need the sound of the funky drama. That's some real lyricism right there, man. Yeah, that's some.
Wow.
Hold on. Is that Bernie Mac? Is Bernie Mac a rapper?
Wow. Wow. So are you talking about Public Enemy, man? You saying Public Enemy weren't good lyrics?
Before or after the reality show? Are we gonna bring that up? Okay.
Wow. Really clearly before the reality show, man. You know that. Stop playing.
And then
Stop playing,
one of them dudes put found themselves in the bathtub texting on their phone.
That doesn't mean
that was Run DMC. Sorry, wrong group.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't remember Reverend Run in the bathtub?
Yeah, Reverend Run in the bathtub giving you words of hope and advice.
From the bathtub.
Why not?
Because he wanted to get you clean too.
Bro. It's meditation.
He wanted to get everybody clean.
Yeah. Hey man, is that are you Super Rhino? Cause I see the cape on you right now, man.
Dog, when you start talking about hip hop, man, you there's no wins with me. Bro. There's no wins with me when you start talking about the true school hip hop.
Wow.
The true school.
The true school.
So
the clips. What are the clips? Who are the clips? They say the clips are great. What made the clips great?
You know what the clips are.
No, he doesn't.
I don't.
He has no idea.
I have no idea.
The clips was Pusha T and his brother.
He doesn't know who these people are.
Grinding. Remember that song?
No, he doesn't.
Not.
No. That's who on your side. The guy don't even know what you're talking about. He hippity dippity skippity right now.
Oh wow! But I don't know. I was not familiar with the clips.
Yeah,
they're
from Virginia.
Bashir would know for that.
They're from Virginia, and Pharrell was the one that produced them.
Damn, Pusha T and Pharrell.
No, Pusha T. It was Pusha T and Malice.
Pusha T and Malice. His brother is Malice.
And produced by Pharrell.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that must be that sounds nice.
They had some big hits though.
Wow, okay. But what year was that? About what year was
that? That was early millennium.
Wow. All right.
Like what, 2005?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So around 2005, that's when the clips came out.
That's when Pusha T and Malice.
Was Pusha T with the clips before he was Pusha T? Or Pusha T's been around forever?
No.
He started with the clips. It was him and his brother, and then, they went solo.
Here's what I think, and I'm glad I got DJ Rhino here to say this. I think when I measure, so I think anybody who loves music, and I would even say this about like somebody like your dad.
Okay.
Right? Because you did the coolest thing I've ever heard.
What I did? What?
His parents had like their 50th wedding anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
So he goes back, does some research, goes back, and he makes a playlist for them based on what was hot the year that they got married.
Oh, actually, the year they were dating.
Right.
So they dated for like 6 months, and then they got engaged after 6 months, and then they got married.
Now, mind you, I think that's the dopest thing That's the dopest thing
1960s in New York City. That's a very romantic story. Shout out to mom and dad.
And make sure they watch The Godfather of Harlem with Bumpy Johnson.
Okay.
And it's Forrest Whitaker is playing Bumpy Johnson.
Nice. Okay.
And Swiss Beats did all the music.
Cool.
That I didn't know.
Yeah. Swiss Beats did all the music. Everybody support a black business. Get you a title account. You know these things. Yeah. So Swiss Beats did all the music. So the coolest thing about
you watch the NFL too?
No,
I thought the Jay-Z said it was a black business.
My knees hurt.
Jay-Z said it's a black business now?
No.
Okay.
He says enough of you still support the white one, so I need some of y'all money.
Fair.
So he goes back. Coolest story I've ever heard, right? We just riding around. He's like, I go back 50 years and I started digging through the crates and find out what's hot. And I play this for my parents on their 50th anniversary.
Yeah.
I believe that everybody who loves music, regardless of color, race, gender, sexual orientation, all of those things, class, all of the things, they are affected by the existential reality that they were experiencing at the time they loved that song.
Right.
And so for me, like, I remember walking.
Can you explain that? Because you use just big words. You are like, they're affected by the existential reality that existed when they played that song.
Break that down.
I'm just saying, man. Like, anyway. Can you please?
Not everybody
right, exactly. You know.
Prison talk, man.
Got him.
No, there are many amendments to the Constitution of the United States. At this moment, I can only choose one. Plead the fifth. Shout out to Dave Chappelle. So existential just means like, where were you? What were you experiencing? Right? For me, like, I love 50 Cent because he said things that I was experiencing at the time.
Right.
Like, I remember the day I became a 50 Cent fan.
Right.
I heard a DJ K Slade mixtape, and he had Who Shot You beat by Biggie. And he said, I must have broke a mirror at 3, had bad luck for 7, because Pop slid, Mommy died before I turned 11. And I remember feeling, finding out that my mother had terminal cancer, having lost a parent, right, being an only child. I remember walking to school, CD player, walking to school, and I heard that and stopped. Just stopped walking and played that line back like 10 times on the way to school.
Wow.
Right. So I remember those emotions and feeling that way. And I don't think I don't think I'm special in that way. I think everybody not only remembers the moment they fell in love with hip hop, but the songs you love. All connected to
that reminds me of the night I heard Public Enemy's Rebel Without a Pause for the first time. I was in the house, I was in my room, and Chuck Chillout was on. Chuck Chillout threw on Rebel Without a Pause by Public Enemy for the first time, and I lost my mind.
For sure.
Number one, the beat alone was something you never ever heard of before in music. Forget hip hop, you never heard this before in music. Like the high pitched horn sound of Maceo Parker. Yeah, that I remember the day I first heard it. I used to say, I was like, what is that tea kettle sound? That's what it sounded like. It sounded like a tea kettle or something, some kind of a whistle. I was like, what is that, man? I remember I had my face in the speaker. I was just like going back. I was pacing back and forth in the room, like, yo, what is this? What is this? And then, Chuck D gets on and he's talking about stuff, man, that opened me up, man. He's talking about Panther Power. You can feel it in my arms, stuff like that. He was like follower of Farrakhan and, Joanne Chesimard. And, I'm like, this made me have to I had to go and research these names and see what's going on, you know what I'm saying? So I'm looking at
everybody. Joanne Chesimard is Assata
Shakur. That's right. So, I'm looking up Joanne Chesimard to find that out about Assata Shakur and learn her story.
Right.
I find out who Farrakhan is.
Is that what it said? Farrakhan's the prophet, and I think you should listen to.
Yeah.
Well, that was on Bring the Noise.
Bring the Noise.
Yeah.
Okay, so my experience was Bring the Noise.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. Like I heard that on the radio. I think I heard that Bring the Noise. I was like, I was a freshman. I was at home, right? I was at home in my room. Mm-hmm. Radio was on, and then he started saying something. I was like, what? I literally stopped what I was doing. I looked up at the radio, and I was like, this is on the radio?
Yeah.
The radio
and the song started off, too black, too strong.
Right.
Too black, too strong. Oh, man, Public Enemy was crazy when it came out. That was like black punk rock or something at the time.
And you know what, Craig? See, this is the thing that I would say about, there's a movie everybody should watch. It's called The Good Shepherd.
Oh, wow. That's a horrible but good movie. That movie is just like, it's kind of like The Godfather that was done in terms of how the
CIA was founded.
Right. And it was founded through like a secret organizations at some Ivy League schools.
It's a Yale.
Oh. What?
Nobody.
Okay, keep going.
Certain times people participate.
Keep talking.
You good?
What? I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
What's my man's name? That was the star of the movie. Not
Robert that was Robert De Niro and the dude from Titanic. Your favorite movie, right? That was the Titanic dude. The dude who died in Titanic. It was like,
it's not DiCaprio.
It was DiCaprio, right?
No.
The Good Shepherd?
No.
The one DiCaprio? Who's that? I knew it was a white person that everybody loved, like DiCaprio.
I mean, you said that like that's not everybody in America. America loves that.
But at
any rate, there's a scene where they're negotiating the La Cosa Nostra's help with the World War II effort. Mm-hmm. And the star of the movie is having a conversation with Joe Pesci, who's playing a mafia don at the time, right? And he's like, for us, we have our food. And even, the blacks, he didn't call us that, right? Even them, they have their music. What do you have? Right. He's like, we have America. All the rest of you are just visitors.
Matt Damon.
All right? And Matt Damon is having this dialogue with Joe Pesci in the movie. Mm-hmm. I think that the existence, it's weird because all the people who are special to me, there's a song that's associated with you all. Right. That I remember. I'm like, I remember. Right. Like,
why did you bring up The Good Shepherd? Because that was a long story. Like, I don't understand.
Well, because
the Joe Pesci scene.
Because Joe Pesci is like, he says, even the blacks. He's like, for us, we have our food and our culture, and even the blacks, they have their music. What do you have? like for us, for Black people, I think music is our one of the most utmost experiences of our existence. I don't even know if you could talk about Black existence without
It's helped us through our survival.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's therapy. It's always been it's been therapy for us since the beginning. I mean, like, and we know this, right? Like, I mean, that's why music is so important to us. That's why I love my headphones.
It's also a line of communication of information.
Yeah,
you know,
like from the drum.
When you talk about narratives from times of slavery, you know, those Negro spirituals and things like that. Those songs had messages and how to cope with your situation and how to possibly get out of your situation. There's information in those songs. You know?
Like, for me, I look at like my fear. I was talking to a group of high school kids the other day, and my fear was I could count on people I could count on the music to speak to not only what I was going through or what I was doing, good or bad, but it also, I knew that if I could just get to my favorite rappers, then there would be food for thought and conversations around whatever it was I was doing.
Right.
And then when I started hearing I don't even think it's called trap music. I think it's called just line music. I started to hear things that I was just like, oh no. Like I remember the saddest day for me with hip hop was when I heard a song and they were like, and I ran off on the plug twice. I was like, that just cost 12 kids their life. You don't run off on an actual a drug. Somebody.
Excuse me. I mean, can you break this down, like, for?
I know you don't want to get prison talk.
So, but what is a plug? What is said plug? I mean, I
heard.
I mean, like, I've heard the term used.
Excuse me.
I've heard the term used every once in a while,
sir,
about the plug. What is the
United States federal government? If you're listening, I heard all of this. What I heard was that plugs were people who supplied urban drug dealers with paraphernalia.
Oh, wait. So you mean ran off on the plug? Like, I took the stuff without paying for it?
Mm-hmm.
Like, took the stuff and didn't pay for it?
Correct.
Oh, people died.
Right.
How many times did he run off?
Life, yeah.
How many times did he run off on this plug?
I said twice.
Oh, okay. And he was thinking about it?
All right, y'all. Everybody's on.
All right. So the vote. We have the vote right now. Everybody's on the line. We have Tamika Mallory. We have Conrad Tillard. We have all these wonderful people on the line. So, hey, on the line, do we hear you? Conrad Tillard. Thank you, Chris Randall. Thank you, DJ Rhino, for the wonderful conversation that we were having. Don't leave, Chris Randall. You can join in on this conversation. So, do we have Tamika Mallory? Are you here? Okay, so not yet, but we're almost there. All right, so I'm glad you still here, Chris Randall. So you were talking about, like, the importance of music.
Yeah, no, and I think we have to guard culture more than anything.
So what do you mean by that? That what?
There's when I think of the Black tradition, and I think about it like prophetically in terms of what it meant and who it speaks to.
The Black prophetic tradition.
Yeah, meaning.
Can you break that down? You use big words. You must read. You must go to the library, because it really comes out in your conversation talking about existential existence and prophetic. Like, what are you talking about, man? What are you talking about, man? Prophetic. What does that mean?
The people who have spoken for us as a people in the culture.
Oh, you mean people who have spoken for us as a culture?
Yes.
You mean like people like Condoleezza Rice?
No, I said prophetic.
Oh.
Wrong P word.
Right. Wow. All right. So, like, what do you mean? Who do you mean? Like Al Sharpton? Al Sharpton? Al Sharpton? Al Sharpton? Like Al Sharpton?
I was more speaking like Martin Luther King Jr.
Okay.
Marvin Gaye.
Okay. Now you're putting Martin Luther King Jr. and Marvin Gaye in the same category.
For sure.
Why?
I don't think you can have a Martin Luther King Jr. without Do you know the story of the I Have a Dream speech?
No.
Wow. While Martin Luther King is up giving what we now know as the I Have a Dream speech, he's going along about his speech, and Mahalia Jackson starts screaming from behind him, telling him about the dream.
Tell him about the dream.
Because she was one of his confidants.
Okay.
She says, tell him about the dream.
Is that because she heard that speech before?
No. That wasn't written down.
Oh wait, it wasn't like the dream. It wasn't like I thought it was like a speech that he gave 100 times before. No.
And so he's up there giving. And maybe a part of it was a canned speech he'd written before. But anyway, while he's giving this, and then Mahalia Jackson says, tell him about the dream. And
can you tell people who Mahalia Jackson is?
Famous gospel singer, probably one of the greatest voices of the 20th century.
Kind of like the Aretha Franklin of gospel. Even though Aretha Franklin was gospel, but yes. Okay. So Mahalia Jackson says
is the reason. Mahalia Jackson is the reason why we have the I Have a Dream speech.
Because she just called out, tell him about the dream. So you bring up Mahalia Jackson and Reverend King. Why?
Because the question is, how do we speak? Who speaks for us? Who speaks truth to power? Who handles all of these issues? And now when we're looking at the culture of where we are with hip hop now, do we have those same voices? Are they still present? I don't want hip hop to go the way of the black church.
Wow. I sound like a diss, but I don't understand it.
Eddie Glaude wrote an article called "Is the Black Church Dead?" And,
wow, were preachers mad?
Well, not necessarily mad. But his argument was not. He said the church is great for tending souls, but do they tend to the bodies and the realities that those souls are housed in? Okay. Are they socially relevant in the same way that they were during the civil rights movement?
And Eddie Glaude is popular on talk shows now.
And Dr. Jamal Bryant said he's now the pastor of New Birth Cathedral in Atlanta.
Atlanta?
Yeah.
Wasn't he in Baltimore?
He was.
He's now in Atlanta?
Yes.
Wow, okay.
So basically what occurred was
Jamal Bryant would be in the category of like Black liberation theology.
For sure. And he said,
and Black liberation theology would say that what? Like what is Black liberation theology? And
he said Black Lives Matter is the first mass movement for Black liberation wasn't led by the church. Right? And so we're now living in this space where the question is, how relevant is the Black church?
And that's what Eddie Glaude said.
Well, Eddie Glaude wrote an article in 2012 about it. Okay. Prior to even Black Lives Matter even happening, so it's sort of prophetic in that way. But that's sort of where we are. And for me, my fear is that I don't want hip hop to go the way of the masses of Black churches, right? In terms of not having a social message and being relevant.
So what you're saying is pie in the sky, but it has nothing to do with
steak by the lake.
Steak by the lake?
You know, you might have pie in the sky, but you ain't gonna have no steak by the lake.
Okay. So it's not. So, who said that?
I heard it from Howard John Wesley.
Okay. And so that basically says that you are fighting for heaven, but in terms of dealing with the reality of our condition, you're saying that much of the Black church does not speak to that.
Correct.
And that becomes the critique.
So I can get your religion right, but I'm not gonna get your life right.
So in terms of mass movements to lead against brutality, for housing, for all the things that we as Black people would need in terms of fight for social justice, you're saying that is not, by and large, that is not led by the church right now.
Right.
And that's what Eddie Glaude was writing.
Yes.
Was there pushback on that? Like, so there's Jamal Bryant in Atlanta. There are a lot of other.
Moss in Chicago, Pastor Ali.
Right. I mean, there are a lot of Black preachers and a lot of Black churches that actually deal
his argument would be those places have become the exception, not the rule.
Okay. Well, those places, and I'm just asking because, you know, there were a lot of people who wrote against what Martin Luther King was doing, who were Black preachers, like, you're going too fast, Martin, going too fast. Like, so were we ever in a state where the majority, or even like a significant, like 50%, like 40% of Black churches were about liberation?
No, but I think that the major ethos of everything. That's what makes hip hop.
You're using these terms like the major ethos of everything. Like, I don't understand.
Why are you acting like you don't?
I'm just saying, because like you're just smart. You're using these big words.
You killing me.
And I'm just wondering why all these big words, man.
Eyes mean that we lives in a world.
So what do you mean by that? What do you mean by like the ethos?
This means the world, like the conditions of the world around us, right? My fear for hip hop is at some point, in the darkest moments of your existence, it's got to be something you can pull on. To not just give you hope, but to give you an explanation.
Okay.
And I'm afraid that a lot of what this generation is being fed is you can self-medicate with illicit drugs, or opioids, and you can just engage.
Wait, there's hip hop that says do opioids?
For sure.
But there's an opioid epidemic.
Yes.
Why ever would anybody say do opioids?
Hey, man.
That's like, okay, were there ever songs that said do crack?
Yeah, it was.
Really?
It was. Yeah.
What songs? They were like, yeah, crack is good. DJ Rhino, they were like, crack good.
Yeah, we got you all this.
That was the thing.
When crack first started, there was a song called "Crack It Up," and it was a pro-crack song at the time, and then they immediately switched it to an anti-crack song when they saw the devastation.
Well, I mean, but how many was that? 3 months?
I'm not sure how long it lasted.
Because crack was like you smoke it one day and you smoke it for 2 days in a row, and all of a sudden you're on a corner selling yourself.
Yeah,
like it was ridiculous.
You got to think. You got to think how cocaine was a recreational drug at the time.
Right, but crack was not recreational. Crack was a life choice.
But those who were doing cocaine and I guess you can graduated to freebasing it. That's how the whole crack thing came in. So it started off. That's how a lot of people who were using it for recreational use ended up becoming fiends.
Right,
and got caught up in it.
Okay. So, and that's horrible. That's horrible. Now, Ed Riley, I see him here. Are we almost on? Is Tamika Mallory and Conrad Tillard, they on?
Can we do a testing? 1, 2, 3.
All right. Testing 1, 2, 3. Are you on?
Tamika, are you here?
Testing 1, 2, 3.
All right. So, can we? Is that Tamika Mallory? Is that Conrad Tillard?
Yes, it is.
All right, and I hear you on. Yeah.
Wait, I hear Conrad. Do I hear Tamika?
All right, Tamika. Tamika?
Okay.
All right, we have you both on. We have Conrad Tillard, Reverend Conrad Tillard, and we have Tamika Mallory here on the line with us. How are you? We are glad to have you here. So how are you? What's going on? What's going on? Like, we have the vote. We're talking. Talk to me. This is Jonathan Alston here. This is Ed Riley.
Well, listen, we've been having all kind of technical difficulty. The computers are running crazy. They got the phone lines all mixed up in here. I mean, it's crazy, man.
But the good thing is we have, like, legendary activists, people who are good for our community, been good for our community, on the line right now.
Yeah.
What is it that we were?
But listen, let's see if we can jump into a couple of things.
We're grateful for your perseverance. So we're grateful for your perseverance.
Because time is up against us. But listen, there were a couple of things that were going on this week. As you all know that there was a brother down in Montgomery who won after 200 years.
Yeah.
Right. And that had never happened in the history. And the thing you all would think is that as progressive and forward thinking as Montgomery is, particularly down there in Alabama, you would have thought that would have happened a long time ago.
Where black people had the majority of the vote.
Yeah, where black people had the majority of the vote.
Well, it's certainly interesting because not just the South. I wouldn't phrase it that way. I would not think of Montgomery or anywhere in Alabama as progressive.
I was wondering, man.
Wow.
The struggle and the perseverance of the brothers and sisters through the Civil Rights Movement, and then Mayor Arrington in Birmingham, and just many of the great leaders that have come out of Alabama have changed the state and the city. George Wallace left here basically begging to be forgiven for the things that he did during the Civil Rights Movement. But it is interesting that in Montgomery, this is the first time a black mayor has been elected, when all throughout the South, because of the overwhelming numbers of African Americans concentrated in those counties, in those districts. That's why the Ku Klux Klan and the people who opposed the Civil Rights Movement were so vociferous, because in many of those counties, blacks had a majority, and so they knew the sheriffs and the and the mayors and the city councils would be dominated by African Americans. So I would love to know more. I heard this wonderful news, but I don't know enough about Montgomery to know why Montgomery was so unusual. Maybe Tamika does.
Tamika?
Oh, please, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm here. So, my family members are from Alabama. My mother's from a little town called Montgomery Alabama, where To Kill a Mockingbird and other stories have come out of. And many of my cousins and others have moved to places like Montgomery and Mobile, and so they really saturate all over the Alabama, and different places in Alabama. And this week they were extremely excited about Stephen Reed. Many of them, which I thought was interesting, some of my younger cousins were very, very engaged in helping this man to become mayor. And these are people in my family who are generally not that interested about politics. But they were very involved. I saw a lot of social media activity, and I think you're right. Between the elected officials, Brother Tillard, between the elected officials and just this newfound interest that people have in politics and trying to figure out how to control their communities and how to have more fairness and equality and equity, if you will, in their community, people are coming out. And, hopefully we keep that up, because it's important for it to be happening on a hyper-local level. It's very
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
What do you mean by that? Like, at a hyper-local level? Like, what does it mean for that people to come out on that level?
Meaning local, as in, a lot of folks are very concerned with the presidential elections, maybe some of their higher office elections like governor, but they're not always as invested when it comes to, especially in small cities, the mayor and people who handle the administrative business of the city, the school board elections for, things related to our children and education. People are not always paying attention to that. And I tell folks when I get into debates with, people who say they're not going to vote in the presidential election because they don't feel that, their voices really count. I always ask them, well, do you vote in all of your local elections, district attorneys and whatnot? And they almost never do that work either. And so I have to let them know that this idea that you're somehow abstaining and you are protesting on a presidential level is really not just about the presidential level. It's about the fact that just your behavior in terms of voting in general and your interest is not there. And that's for many different reasons, but I think you're seeing more people understand the power of their vote locally.
And I just wanted to also add, and Conrad and Tamika, I also want to add, let us not forget our Greeks and the social justice component they have, because he was Omega Psi Phi, so he's a Q. So and as young millennials come into the Greek organizations, I think they have an awareness and they're participating in each of the Greek organizations' social justice. So that network that they have amongst themselves by him being a Q is a global network, and they're able to utilize that platform as well.
Oh yeah, we're seeing the sisters in the AKA organization very enthusiastic about Kamala Harris and organizing. So, and Jesse Jackson was an Omega. I remember back in '84, the Omegas got behind, and so you're right. All of these organizations. Bill Clinton was said to be a joiner. He joined a lot of organizations. A lot of people who run for office have a tendency to join a lot of organizations, because in moments like this, people do get excited when their standard bearers are involved in races. So you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Especially in the South, Greek-led organizations are very, very strong.
That's right.
But what I find interesting is that over 60% of the community is Black, and that it's taken them this long to organize to do that.
That's why, absolutely. That's why I got to dig into that, because it just seems so unusual. Because of course, the civil rights movement was played out in so many different scenes there. So I really want to know more about what that unique stronghold was that kept African Americans out. But I'm just glad that we have overcome, at least there, in terms of that position.
And I think we're setting trends across the country, right? So people are seeing in other cities that it is actually possible. You know, I often think of the memes, social media memes, where they show how a dog is standing in front of a gate, and because he's been stung once, he's afraid to go through the gate again. He believes that he now has some type of device that's keeping him from walking through, but in fact there is not. And that may be the case with people, you know, in those communities feeling like they've either voted for a black candidate in the past and there was corruption or nothing changed, and now having someone to come forward who was young, who has energy, and who was able to capture them, you know. So, and because, again, you see this happening across the country with mayors like Ross Baraka and others, hopefully we're in a situation where more people will begin to pick up the attitude. You know, and the other question is, like, who's been running for office, right? That's we always have to ask ourselves, who's been running? Have we had the same people running in these particular cities who've been involved and engaged in other activities that people are not comfortable with? Have folks already figured out that these individuals don't deserve their vote? You know, and so there's, you know, a sort of like a turn off. So I think there's a lot of things that could play into it, but I'd love to hear your research about what it is. I certainly will ask my family as well.
Because you're implying that, like, literally all politics are local. And I remember when Ferguson happened, and people talked about how that was a majority Black community. And that really tripped me out in terms of the stuff that you're talking about right now. And that there's a lot to be had in voting in local elections. Could you talk more about that? Like, what is the difference between a local election and a presidential election?
Let me just say this, you know, I think I've mentioned on this show before, that phrase, I'm sure it was said before, but it was coined by Thomas P. Tip O'Neill, who was the speaker. He had Nancy Pelosi's position in the 80s, and he was a Boston politician. And he said to his neighbor one day, thanks for voting for me on election day. And his neighbor said, I didn't vote for you. And he said, what, you've been my neighbor for 20 years and you didn't vote for me? He said, you never asked me. And so he wrote a book that says all politics is local. And so we know that the sexy offices, the president, the Congress, the Senate, but just think of all of the important decisions that are made locally at the city council level, at the district leader level, at the you know, it's called different things. And, you know, I think in New Jersey, the city council people or state reps are called some unusual arcane name. Give me that title. What do they call it?
Well, in North, they're council people, but I think in some places,
assembly,
like assembly, right, or something like that.
In the state rep, it's another term. I can't think of it. But all of those offices are very, very important. Even the school board.
That's right.
I mean, all of these offices, so many wonderful decisions are made. And one of the things I believe is that we really do have to do the hard work of educating, doing political education. I think in many ways we oversell politics to our people, and we sell it like we sell religion. And I think that we've done ourselves a disservice. We may get them out to the polls one election, and they're expecting jubilee, but when they don't get it, the next time it's harder. So I think the hard work that groups like the Panthers and others were doing of political education is very important. It's not as sexy, but if we can get them to go to the polls, not because they've been oversold, but because they actually understand what the process can yield, then I think there'll be a more sustainable engagement with politics.
As opposed to opportunism. Tamika, Mallory, what do you have to say about that?
Well, you know, I can say, because I think Reverend Tillard really laid it out very well, but, you know, I would just reiterate the same point about the need for people to understand where their power lies. You know, I think even when we look at some of the things that's happening on the national level, like with ICE coming into local communities and, other harmful policies. There are local officials, local mayors, governors, stopping these things from happening. They are the ones who push back saying they're not allow ICE to come in and deport people.
That's right. That's right.
They're the ones that are responsible for policing policies. And so while it is really important for us to get geared up, during these major elections, I think it's so important to be able to, maintain your community power while you're focusing on outside the community, because it actually helps. So when you get a fool like Trump in office, you have people who are there to push back against the federal government. I was also, recently, well, first of all, I'm supporting a young man who has an election tomorrow in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, by the name of Gary Chambers. And it's funny that he is running for state senate for District 15. He's running against a black woman. And many of the organizations out there are very excited about the fact that a black woman is running. Meanwhile, she's pro-life.
Wow.
She doesn't support the legalization of cannabis. And so we've had to do a lot of work to make sure that people know who she is and what her policies are, because people are often caught up in the idea of it's the time of the woman, and I think that's great, but we have to be much more politically conscious than to just vote for someone because they appear to be the person that is popular in the moment.
That's right.
Right. Yeah, my mama told me about that when she was active in supporting a mayor early in the 70s in Newark, and when he got in, did things that were the opposite. And she was like, I learned that just because you have a black face doesn't mean you have a black agenda.
All skin folk, what did they say? All skin
folk ain't kinfolk, right?
Yeah. Well, listen, that brings us to another conversation we need to have about this 29-year-old brother who has been the first one to pull the trigger, as it were. As you know, Mayor Baraka is trying to do that here in terms of do the universal basic income. This brother out of Stockton, California, Mayor Michael Tubbs. Did y'all get a chance to read and hear about the $500 universal basic income and how it's working out there?
I am somewhat familiar. I got a chance to peruse the article that you sent us, but tell me what was the major emphasis from your perspective?
Yeah, I actually spoke to the brother. I was trying to get him on the show for y'all this week. He was running around. He said he had so many things to do, but he definitely wants to come on with y'all. But he was saying that, all of the hits he took, of course, Mayor Baraka is taking a lot of hits here as well. We're talking about he wants to give folks $1,000, with no strings attached. Well, the brother actually
what
said,
are the hits? What are people saying bad about that?
Well, what they're saying is that, him giving $500 to poor folks out in Stockton, California is making them not want to work, making them not want to get up. But just the opposite is actually working. The opposite is that the program is 8 months in. He said he's gonna run it for an entire year, and he said that if it works, he wants to continue, right? And he said that it's actually working, Conrad and Tamika, and Councilwoman Donowitz. He said locally, the reason why local elections matter and having black mayors matter, he said, because like him, he said that, he wants to talk to Mayor Baraka, and he said he want to tell him, yo, bro, this stuff works, man.
Well, we know that the money's gonna go right back into the community.
Right.
We know that, and you already had a presidential candidate who had this as their national platform. So it's
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I would like to see the once he rolls it out for a year, what are some of the studies that come back?
Yeah, what he said is that he said that the people what they found, Brother Conrad and Timothy, he said he found that people are actually paying their bills with that $500.
Right.
He said that they're actually paying phone bills, they're buying food, they're paying light bills, and he said in some cases they're even paying their children's babysitting fees.
Right. So
and once they do that, right? Because once people don't have to worry about survival, then they can start thinking about other stuff.
Right.
You know, I'd like to learn more about it. I mean, listen, people are experiencing tough times in this country right now. New York City, the homelessness problem, and I'm sure it's in Newark. The homelessness problem is just almost out of control. I mean, I've never in my life seen the number of people sleeping in the trains. It is very, very difficult just to provide the basic necessities. So any help that people can have certainly is important. My concern about those kinds of programs is that there's inherent dignity in working, and I think folks need to get jobs, but you can't be indifferent to people suffering as we're trying to get the economy going in our community. Now, Trump says that there's more joblessness in our community than ever before. I don't quite understand how that is, or if it is true, the jobs that people have are not able to pay their basic necessities. So I know people need help, and I applaud any elected official, particularly a mayor like Mayor Baraka, that is grappling with such great need in the city. We got to do something to try to figure out how to help folks.
Yeah, and I don't know exactly what you're talking about in terms of these numbers. I would love to understand how they are going about pulling this data, because I'm in the community every day, or keep talking to people in the community every day, and folks can't find jobs. And if they do, to your point, they're finding jobs that are really not sustainable.
Right.
So I'm not sure where these jobs are.
And if they're doing, and like you said, Amazon, so Amazon takes over Whole Foods, but then he drops the healthcare component, for Whole Foods. So if you have a mother who was working at Whole Foods, who took her child, maybe came to work at Whole Foods and took her child out of the system where she was getting healthcare, which is a very important time for a child that's in K-8 to be able to get their shots, their checkups. If they want to be in a sporting project or event, they need to get an exam. But now they don't even have healthcare through Whole Foods. So now this mother has to determine, was it better for me to be a stay-at-home mom and get assistance where I had healthcare, or if I go to work every day and not be eligible for healthcare? So these are things that you're at that line where damned if you do and damned if you don't. So.
And those are the decisions. Those are the decisions that I think that when they talk about the kitchen table, decisions that people have to make. Those are the decisions that the women who are the leaders in our family have to make every day. Because as you know, Tamika, this children, and Conrad, having kids get sick, man.
Especially when they're around all the sick kids.
And and without health care, you could be bankrupt. So I mean, I listen.
Yeah, and if you don't have health care, you have a tax issue because they charge you a penalty for it. So you're stuck in one position or the other.
Yeah.
And if you're in New Jersey who didn't join, where Christy didn't join the healthcare, so sometimes if you're not in a community like Essex County who made ways so that we can get people in the healthcare system where other ones were opposed to it because Christy didn't join the healthcare under President Obama. There's all these obstacles that it's not always that easy to navigate, especially when you don't have from the federal government down to the local government all working together, so.
Yeah.
Well, and I want to just say though, because these problems, the economic picture in America did not just happen 4 years ago. And we have continued to have a problem with the rich getting richer and the middle class disappearing and the cost of living going up and the cost of food and healthcare. And we have to be honest. I mean, the healthcare industry, all of the real estate industry, they have both of these parties in their clutches. And I think that, to act as though black folks just start suffering and poor folks and working class people. No, this has been a long time coming. The real estate industry, the healthcare industry are disproportionately powerful, and we're seeing it not only in cities like New York that have always been historically expensive, but even places like Atlanta and other places that were historically affordable. People are paying $1,200 and $1,300 a month rent in those communities, and that's unheard of. So we've got some issues in this country, and that's part of why I'm not. For me, we elect a Democrat. That's great. Okay, we get Trump out of office. That's great. But if the calculus is still the same, that elected officials are in bed with these money interests, these powerful interests, and that the banking industry, if that's going to continue to be the calculus, then that's problematic for me. And I think our solution has to dig this deeper than just electing a Democrat or getting Trump out of office. But we got to change the fundamental calculus in this country, because great things about this country used to be that we could provide the middle class not only with a decent wage, but a ladder up. And that kind of social mobility is lacking today in far too many instances, and that deeply concerns me. And I don't always hear Democratic politicians dealing with that fundamental direction that we're going in, that I think is bad for working class people.
I always thought that if everyone, I thought voting in our community is so important, not just because of who we choose or what we choose, but the statement we make when we vote in high numbers is that that's a community that can't be messed with. That's right. So I always thought that voter turnout was a form of community protection, and that voter education for why you should come out to vote, simply because that means in high numbers, that means that the politicians know not to mess with you, and that your interests are not to be toyed with.
And holding them accountable. Former freeholder Clark used to always be in Trenton. And used to say, I know it looks like I represent ghosts, but I don't. Because Essex County traditionally votes at 30%. Right. Now, if Essex County voted at 100%, we probably could name almost any seat in the state of New Jersey, because we have the numbers here. But we don't come out in numbers. And it shows when they're sending money to pave roads, they're sending money to fix this or not fix that. They're looking at who's coming out the road. And if we're not showing up, they're not paying as much attention as those who do vote. As
in sending money for things that we need locally.
Right.
Yeah, this is.
Do you find this true nationally? Like Tamika, you were saying?
Reflecting back on something that Reverend Tillard said about, sort of voting for the Democratic Party and then having those individuals still be in pocket with these corporations and others that do harm to our communities. It's a scary thing, because we know that it is 100% true, but at the same time, it's being used by these young Black Republicans who, I find to be extremely problematic. Those talking points are being used to bring young people over to the Republican Party and to support policies, and also just to hear them speak about immigration and other things that are so important, either very carelessly or in a very mean way. Looking for better words, but you all know what I'm saying. It's either, very harmful and scary, or they just don't really understand it, nor do they care. But they've heard a good speech from someone who tells them that, because of the fact that the Dems are not doing much for us, perhaps voting with the Republican Party is a good thing. And of course, if that's who you are and that's who you are, that's fine. But I just, am very afraid that our young people are being pulled in one direction or the other for lack of knowledge, lack of understanding about any of this. And hopefully we'll have more folks who want to run for office on both party lines that will be people who represent our interests more. That's what I would like to see. I would love to see good debate and a good campaign effort where people on both parties, in both parties, are standing up for our issues, which will give us a real choice. I would love to see that happen.
Right, so that's what it's about. I mean, that's totally what it's about. That's the representation. No matter where they are, they're standing up for the interests of the people and not the corporations and not the lobbyists. And, I struggle with this because, obviously in the last, several years, we've been struggling with the president that we have. And, we really need an alternative. But the question is, I still haven't made up my mind who among the Democrats really represents that alternative. I mean, I like what some of them are saying, primarily at this point. I like what Elizabeth Warren is saying. I like some of the things that Bernie was responsible for introducing, but I'm not sure about the rest. And I don't know how this thing is going to end up. So I'm watching it with bated breath. I tell you.
I love hearing you say that about how Bernie was responsible for much of what the other people have just sort of, taken his talking.
Oh, he changed the game.
Oh, he did.
Yeah.
Right.
He changed the whole.
And sometimes that's what you come to do. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Sometimes that's exactly the point of you being there, is to make people, force people to say the things that need to be said and do the things that need to be done. And, I don't know whether Bernie will be the nominee or not, but what I will say is that you cannot deny how much you need to shake this thing up and to really force people to push the margin in terms of their policy ideas. Certainly, it looks like people's playbook is turned inside out.
Right. And let me say this now. Don't forget that he basically, for the first time since maybe the 70s, rescued and took the party from that Democratic Leadership Council, the Clinton influence, that conservative influence that the Democrats became. So, he is returning the party, he's returned the party, and even taking further than it's ever been to addressing the needs of the working class, the middle class, and the poor. Those are important things. And I hope that we can find some unity around the candidates, and I hope that I hope that the party will understand it can't win without these important constituents, and I hope that they will not try to sell us short. Because let me tell you something, I'm in the streets every day. Black people really, really look for the Obama administration to be a game changer. In some ways, it was good and delivered, but not what many people thought. And so the concern is, if that was the best shot we had, why does it matter? But we have to try to get people to understand, as you said earlier, it's incremental, it's local, it's a hand-to-hand combat, and victories are determined by the margins. That's very important to keep in mind.
Well, I tell you, like Mitty said last month, Conrad, when you was on, and what he said is that the one thing we can't let them do this time around is not put money in the Black community and not take us for granted this time around. Because Hillary campaign, and you noticed, Tamika, because you made a call out there to Brooklyn the same way Roland Martin did, and
Donna
when he was saying,
too.
Donna too, when they were saying they didn't see any ads or any promotion, anything in the Black community, and them young white boys were saying, "Oh, don't worry, we ain't got to spend no money."
Right, they kept the money. Anyway. They didn't know our community.
Yeah.
Tamika, let me ask you a question. When we were waiting for you to call in, Tamika, I asked Conrad a question. Did you get a chance to see Blackish this week?
Yeah, I want to hear your response.
Tamika, did you get a chance to see Blackish?
I didn't get to see Blackish this week. I sure didn't.
Are you about to ruin it for us?
No, Tamika, they did your life imitated art this week, so I need you to go talk about it, and I guess we'll talk about it next month. Because as soon as I sat down, I was actually listening to Karen Hunter, and she was talking about it, which caused me to go back and look at it, and I was like, They took this right out of the storyline of Tamika Mallory. So I
Wow.
need you to go watch it, and I guess we'll talk about it in November.
I'm sure your phone got blown up over it then.
Has
Did your
it
phone get blown up?
You know what? This is the first time I'm hearing about it.
Wow.
Okay.
Well,
I had to take a look.
well. One thing we want people to be clear about, Tamika, is and for lack of not cussing, you're not to be messed with. Let's be clear about that. You know what I mean? You know. So if they gonna tell a story about you, we just want the story to be true. That's all.
What I
Right.
need you to do is get your popcorn and get there and just I don't know if you're gonna have to rate somebody and get some royalties or whatever, but once the storylines start rolling out, I was like, aha.
I hope I don't have to call my brother, Anthony Anderson, to get him a piece of my mind.
I think you will be.
Okay.
Well, we'll let you go see it, and then we'll talk about it when y'all come on next month and see what you think about it. And listen, we want to thank y'all for sticking with us, and we're sorry for all of the technical difficulties here in the studio.
We think so much of you. We were whole for you. So keep doing the great work.
Well, we appreciate it.
Thank you all so much.
All right, we appreciate y'all. All right, now.
Peace.
All right, peace.
Peace.
There it
Thank you.
is. It was Tamika Mallory
All right.
and Conrad Tillard. That was the vote. And so we get ready to take a break, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to talk a little Amistad.
And I'm super excited, right? Because one of the guests is my big wonderful sister,
Yeah.
Annette Alston.
Yeah.
And she's a wonderful writer, does all this other good stuff. So
Uh-oh.
that's right. That's right. That's right. White people do it all the time.
And
We competent though.
and she's my adopted sister. And I've got to also say, John, you don't invite her to come by. I gotta remind you to invite her. So
well, I invited her this time.
Yeah, okay.
I invited her this time.
And we sitting down having dinner the other night, and I said, "What's up with Annette, man?
And I was bragging on my sister. I'm like, yo,
and I'm
her
like-
book is in the Smithsonian.
And I'm saying, to John, well,
My
what's up,
sister
John?
is going to do a book signing in the Smithsonian on her book for Harriet Tubman. It's got 4 out of 5 on Goodreads. So I mean, it's a phenomenal book on Harriet Tubman for kids.
Absolutely.
So we might start with the book on Harriet Tubman. 'Cause I know that Stephanie Harris from the Amistad Commission is going to be coming in, calling in a little bit later. She's going to be calling in about 7:45.
So hopefully we won't have no more problems. Hopefully she can call her on her phone, because we were having trouble with the phone.
Yeah.
Oh, because
figure it out.
the phone. That's because you know why you're having trouble with the phone, Mr. Riley.
Why?
Because your good wife is not here to work the phone.
Well,
Queen is not
And-
here. That's
Right, your queen got to be here
Well,
for phones to work right.
she mastered
The
the
phones,
phones, and
no,
we
the
can't get them
phone.
right,
It's
huh?
not she mastered the phones. The phones like her better.
It's job
The
security.
right. Phones are like, nah. Where's Kim? All right, so we'll be back. All Politics are Local, America's number one
Number one.
political hip hop radio talk show. DJ Rhino, do your thing, brother.